Being there with my men, one had to handle the situation. The convoy was due to move out from Srinagar. You cannot delay the convoy, it has to move on time. I took on the task to locate it. It was remote controlly detonated and it hit me. Fortunately, there were no other men with me at that given time. That was a big achievement, that my men were safe. I am Lieutenant Colonel US Gill, Sena Medal, from the Central India Horse, the Armoured Corps, and I have had also the august privilege of having served the 1st Battalion Rashtriya Rifles in Kashmir, fighting insurgency. With this background, I am a war-injured person as on date. My childhood was again in the army, as my father was an army officer from the Gurkhas, and then off like father like son, I preferred to join the army, and in 78 I went to the Officers Training Academy in Madras. Then subsequently in 79 April I was commissioned to this very august armoured regiment, the Central India Horse. We came into a tank regiment where it was metal monitor that you had to train on. You had to train with your men as a crew. Made us strong, and it really broke us into the military format. You're tankman, that's what is a matter of pride. You ride the horse into battle. Thereafter, I got my posting orders to Kashmir to serve with the 1st Battalion, the Rashtriya Rifles. The Rashtriya Rifles was raised to handle the situation in Kashmir because the law and order situation and militancy and insurgency in Kashmir was growing rapidly by the day. It was difficult to operate, especially when they came under fire in populated, built-up areas where there were children, there were women, there were old men. We would clear the highway, check for any improvised explosive devices planted by the enemy anywhere. If they were there, we had to, by ourselves in person, clear these. ऐसे ये काले झंडे बिजली के खंभों पे दूसरी जगहों में लगे मिलते थे अमूमन, और इनके ऊपर लिखा होता था इंडियन डॉग्स, यानी आर्मी के लिए, गो बैक, जैसे ये वाला हिजबुल मुजाहिदीन ने लगाया हुआ था, और इन्हीं का वो आईडी जिससे मैं ज़ख्मी हुआ हूँ। वो लोकल्स जो हैं, आम जनता जो है, दैट इज़ नॉट अगेंस्ट इंडिया। इनको भड़काया जाता है। जो स्टोन थ्रोइंग या कोई भी राइटिंग होती है, उसमें कहाँ हैं ये लीडर्स? नहीं है, ये अपने घरों में बैठे हैं। Then one day my troops who would cover that area, they deployed and they intimated that yes, there's definite information of a landmine, because my men had called for me. It was my duty to lead from the front. So there I was, and we began looking for this explosive device. But before we could really get to it and defuse it so that in case of an explosion, no destruction took place, this IED was the first IEDs that was remote controlled. I was just about 5 feet from it when they detonated this explosive, and it was like a knockout punch. I I hear my men call, stretcher, stretcher. And then I feel myself being lifted. I try to move, I just can't move. It's like, a blackout of sorts. And then I hear one man ask the nursing assistant, "Ustad, bach jayenge?" He says, "Bach jana chahiye hai." Then I realized that yes, there's something that's gone amiss with me. I've got injured. The resolve, the dedication, the love, the loyalty of the troops. Was I a very good commander to them? I apparently feel so. Unmindful of their own safety, single vehicle with me and 6-8 men were rushing down the highway for Srinagar. One thing I'd like to mention here definitely, when on the hospital bed, the first thing that came to mind were the words of the second in command of my regiment. जब बकरीद आएगी सिर्फ वो बकरा बचेगा जिसने अपना ट्रेनिंग दुरुस्त किया है. I asked by sign, he says, "You want to write something?" I said, "Yes." So he called for a paper and pencil. And while I was about to write, he says, "Your mother and wife would be arriving this morning." So I did not write anything further. So he says, "You wanted to write something." So then I wrote on that paper, "I did not want you to inform my family."
Well, it was 2nd November 1993, I remember. They gave me this news that my husband met with an accident. So for me, accident just meant maybe his jeep must have toppled, or never thought of like that word accident. It never got into my head the way I was supposed to know. If he survives, he'll be a disabled man throughout his life. I just want my husband alive. Handicap, disability doesn't make any difference. I just want him there. Trust me, it did not get, I never thought it going to be so serious. ID blast, unless you go and see what actually ID blast is. Later on, I was told that Jalandhar News had declared him dead. But then we were too busy to prepare ourselves to go to base hospital, leaving my children behind with my mother. They were too small. I never wanted them to see all that. He was in the ICU. Nothing can happen to this man. He's very strong, for all this. I went, I held his hand. I couldn't see his face. It was just a piece of blood, flesh and mud. What little they could clean, his hair were all full of blood. There were bandages. His face was all stitched up like a cobbler's black thread, I was not prepared for it, but Almighty gives you all that strength. And they declared him off DIL, off dangerously ill list. That was a big achievement. I thought I'll be able to take him back. I can't forget 10 boys always standing outside the ICU to give him blood, which was very rare. It was all the Johnnies of 1 hour. And then, no regrets. I got my hero back. I was very happy. At least he's back. Handicapped, disabled, never thought of it. I was very happy that he's back with us. And he proved it. He loved his family. He's back because of me and my boys. I tell you, it was a tremendous change ever since he left us in 1993. It really made me a very, very strong person like he is.
I still remember my first reaction when I saw him. I didn't recognize him and I told my mother, like, "Where's my father?" Because everything had changed.
See, now when you say, was it worth it? Yes, it was worth it, whereas he saved so many men.
You see, the first and foremost is that once you're in uniform, it is your solemn duty to be an example to your subordinates. You got to lead from the front. You can't be behind your men. You have to be ahead of your men to guide them.
The best part was that he saved his men. I loved the way he plunged himself into action despite of people asking why him, what was he doing there. I'm very proud of it. And I want people to become real heroes like him and join the army.
From the wuthering heights of snow-capped glaciers down to the sea. The world's yours to see and enjoy. Everything else comes with it. Therefore, don't be scared of joining the army. What you earn in uniform is respect, pride, and a head held high.
Sony Live. We live to entertain. Download the app.